The freshwater wetlands and waterholes of Australia are full of life. Hosting majestic, extraordinary, and deadly creatures. They congregate at these waterways to eat, breed, and rear their young. It's one of the most diverse and prolific ecosystems in Australia. A vast island continent, home to some of the planet's most unusual and fascinating animals. These are the secrets of the Australian waterhole. The tropical far north of Australia. It's hotter and wilder than the milder southern regions. Up here, there are only two real seasons: the wet and the dry. It's October, the end of the dry season. There's been very little rain for 5 months. The hot sun evaporates moisture quickly. Birds crowd around one of the few remaining shallow pools of water. These shrinking reservoirs are a vital lifeline for animals looking for water and food. Day after day, the sun burns and the land cracks. Temperatures are high. Fire and drought are common and can be fatal to animals. Some species avoid the scorching dry season by flying away to more benign areas. Some bury themselves and go into a resting phase. In November or December, the sky turns dark, the clouds roil. The wet season arrives. Three or 4 months of hard showers, humidity, thunderstorms, and millions upon millions of litres of rain. Rivers burst their banks. They flood out onto the surrounding flat savanna, linking up to create vast expanses of shallow wetlands. The rain also tops up the existing waterholes and lagoons. Frogs are among the first to wake up. They've been hiding from the sun in crevices, hollow logs, or deep down in the mud, where they bury themselves in cocoons made from their own skins. The aptly named magnificent tree frog emerges. He begins calling for mates straight away. For wetland frogs in the far north, breeding is urgent. Water levels are high right now. But within the wet season, water levels still rise and fall. He wants to make sure his eggs don't dry out and die. So he swings into action immediately. Within hours of waking up, frogs mate and lay their eggs. As little as a week later, tiny but fully formed little frogs can emerge onto land. The shallow, temporary pools that form on the flat savanna are preferred for egg laying. The deeper waterholes will soon be swarming with predators. Not the safest place for tadpoles. As the rain continues, in the waterholes and lagoons, dormant eggs and larvae reactivate, creating food for insects, small fish and crustaceans. At this lagoon, close to Crocodile National Park, the water is teeming with tiny life. The basis of a remarkable and complex food web. The plant life revives too. The rains trigger the water lilies to make their colourful return, opening their pristine pink petals and unfurling their large leaves. They survived through the dry season by letting their leaves die off, but keeping their roots alive. As they grow and bloom again, their large leaves give shelter for the insects and larvae that are developing in the water. The undersides of their leaves and stems are covered with algae, food for the new invertebrates. As all this small-scale life in the wetlands and waterholes increases, it attracts larger animals to predate on the burgeoning banquet growing in the waters. Birds. Thousands of them. From familiar ducks to some of the most extraordinary exotics. Birds are the kings of the wetlands and waterholes. If a waterhole is deep enough to persist, some birds may stay year-round. Others, like these magpie geese, migrate from other parts of Australia to these fresh feeding grounds, taking advantage of the new and watery world brought by the rain. The magpie geese are vegetarian. They're looking for the seeds of wild rice. But others, like this egret, are here for the new explosion of fish, insects and crustaceans. Different types of beak or bill help each species to catch its favourite food. The glamorous, glossy ibis, with its iridescent plumage, is a crustacean lover. With its curved beak, it can probe the mud to find food. Weird and wonderful birds are everywhere at the waterhole. The spoonbill, is another unmistakable visitor. There are two kinds in northern Australia. The royal spoonbill has a black face and legs. The yellow spoonbill has a pale bill and legs and is slightly larger. There's no mystery to their name. The birds swathe their namesake bills from side to side in arcs of over 90 degrees as they move through the water, searching for small fish, crustaceans and other invertebrates. Sensory organs on the spatulate bill pick up any movement, helping them feed in murky water. Once they detect prey, these strange beaks snap shut on the victim. The blossoming insect life provides food for many of the birds. The willy wagtail tends to stay firmly on dry land by the water's edge, looking for crawling and hopping insects like ants, termites, and grasshoppers. Despite his name, he's actually part of the fantail family of birds, rather than the wagtails. A very familiar sight in Australia, he lives in almost every kind of habitat, apart from dense forest. He can't resist the insect buffet that's appeared at the waterside. The pied stilt scours the surface of the water for insects that skate, hover, or fly. It uses its long legs to stride a little way out into the water. But it hasn't got the reach of the jacana. Nicknamed the lily trotter, it uses the lily pads as stepping stones to penetrate further into the heart of the waterhole and find different insects. The jacana is also called the Jesus bird because it looks as though it's walking on water. Its enormous feet distribute its weight over the lily pad. As the wetlands and waterholes fill up, there are some more new arrivals. The pelicans have appeared to exploit the profusion of fish. They may have come from the coast. These pelicans are opportunistic and go wherever feeding grounds are good. They have one of the longest bills of any living bird. It can grow up to 1/2 metre long. The pouch-like bottom section is elastic in nature. The expandable pouch scoops the fish up, along with all the surrounding water. The hook on the end of the bill helps them grip onto especially slippery fish. They squash down their pouches and drain the water out, leaving just their catch, which they swallow whole. The pelicans patrol the waters in groups, honking away. Although they like to live together, sometimes they can be rather cantankerous. All this commotion attracts one of the waterhole's top predators. A freshwater crocodile, known as a freshie in Australia. It lives in rivers and freshwater estuaries during the dry season, but with the prolonged rain of the wet comes flooding of the plains. And the opportunity to travel to new feeding grounds. Usually smaller than its saltwater cousin, the freshie also has a narrower snout. This nose shape means better stealth and speed in the water. It feeds mainly on aquatic life, fish and crustaceans, as well as the frogs and turtles that are now abounding in the wetlands and waterholes. It's an ambush hunter, waiting until one gets close, and springing the trap with a sideways snap of its jaws. As it gets larger, the freshie will also go for mammals like water rats and water birds. Crocodiles have been on the planet for around 200 million years, outliving the dinosaurs. Although they can still be plagued by flies. Water is many times denser than air, so streamlining is necessary for animals that need to swim at high speeds underwater. Even though this freshie spends much of his time motionless, he has a classic torpedo shape for maximum hydrodynamic efficiency. His webbed back feet help him maneuver into the perfect position. And his powerful tail propels him silently through the water as he sneaks up on an unsuspecting pelican. After a morning hunting, the freshie clambers onto land to warm his body in the sun. He's an ectotherm and uses external heat to control his internal temperature. Although this does make him dependent on the weather, one advantage is that the freshie doesn't need to feed as often as warm-blooded animals like birds and mammals. He can go without food for months if he needs to. As well as fish, the freshie will take any mammals that venture too close to the water. A flock of little red flying foxes comes in to roost. These bats like to base their colonies near large bodies of water, like this waterhole. In addition to a secure water source, waterholes may also give them a landmark that helps them navigate back from their feeding areas. Every evening they set off en masse to find the nectar, fruit and blossoms they eat. The bats swoop down and take a sip from the water whilst on the wing. But that drink could cost them their lives. This ambush predator has a special adaptation that means the freshie can break the surface of the water without a single giveaway ripple. He can move vertically up and down on the spot without swimming or twitching a limb. Eyes and nostrils emerge softly, slowly, with total control. But he's not simply using air as a flotation device. The croc is actually moving entire organs around to achieve this shift in buoyancy. Using a muscle at the back of his diaphragm, the freshie shifts the position of his lungs. To sink, he draws the lungs back in the body towards the tail. To rise, he relaxes that muscle, moving the lungs forward. And the freshie has a specialized throat, so he can open his mouth underwater to capture prey without swallowing lots of water. When the mouth opens, part of the tongue, called the palatal valve, closes off the opening to the throat. So the mouth can fill with water, but none of it enters the stomach or lungs. Meanwhile, air inhaled through the nostrils enters behind the palatal valve, allowing the freshie to keep breathing even when his mouth is full of water. All the waterhole inhabitants have their own ways of getting oxygen. The fish absorb dissolved oxygen in the water with their gills. Birds have lungs like humans, but also possess air sacs that work like extensions of their lungs. So they have fresh, oxygen-rich air in their bodies all the time. Rather than a diaphragm, they use muscular contractions of their rib cages to move the air in and out. Amphibians have lungs, but can also breathe through their skin. The croc's stealthy breathing system also means they can go undetected as they ambush their prey, with no giveaway bubbles. They have excellent binocular vision. But even if they're in dark water, full of mud, they have tools that enable them to constantly map their environment. Sense receptors on their bodies tell them when water pressure changes or if there's a disturbance, which could mean dinner is served. The young freshie here has his eye on a pelican. But his eyes are bigger than his stomach. He's got a few more years to grow before he can tackle a bird this size. In fact, at this size, he's nowhere near fulfilling his role as the apex predator. Right now, he's on the menu of other animals himself. A water python is silently poised at the water's edge. It's a non-venomous snake that kills by constricting its coils and suffocating its prey. It mainly feeds on rats and other small mammals, but if this snake gets big enough, it will take a baby crocodile. Especially a nice little bite-sized one like this, just a few weeks old. Not today. The water python is a stealthy hunter, but the croc's ability to sense differences in water pressure gives it an edge. And the baby makes its getaway in the nick of time. And the snake itself, like everything else in this intricate food web, is potentially food for another animal. At first glance, the ecology of the waterhole may look like a simple food pyramid, with the plankton feeding insects, which feed fish and birds, which in turn feed bigger animals like the freshie. But the real law of this watery jungle is that all the animals eat whatever will fit into their mouths at the time. For example, many fish eat larval beetles, but as the surviving beetles grow larger, they can in turn prey on young fish. So at the waterhole, what goes around comes around. The snake may be a hunter, but it's also a favourite meal for one of the rulers of the wetlands. It's not an obvious predator. It has no sharp teeth, claws or coils. It's the Jabiru. The Jabiru, or black-necked stork, is Australia's only stork species. The females have golden eyes. The males, dark. She's 1.2 metres tall, with a 2.5 metre wingspan. She has a heavy 30-centimetre long beak, capable of spearing straight through a hard turtle shell. The Jabiru reigns supreme among the waterhole birds. This heron has just caught a snake for lunch. But the Jabiru lets the heron know who's boss. The Jabiru eats everything the waterhole has to offer, from tiny fish and insects to baby crocs. Like the spoonbill, it feeds by touch, foraging in the shallow water. Holding its bill at around a 90-degree angle to the surface, it can feel sensations in the water and mud that tell it when prey is close. Then it snatches it up or skewers it with its bayonet bill. Many of the other waterhole birds have a similar shaped beak, sturdy and sharp, ideal for catching fish. The beautiful azure kingfisher launches aerial strikes from an overhanging branch. He dives into the water at high speed, targeting an unsuspecting victim in his beak. Back on his perch, he kills the fish by bashing it on the branch before eating it. While the kingfisher needs his prey to be fairly near the surface, some birds can go deeper, widening their prey base. The herons and egrets use their long legs to wade out and stalk fish. Once they've zeroed in on their target, they jab their dagger-like beaks down and impale it. All the animals of the wetlands are interconnected in a multi-layered web of life. Whether predators and prey in a food chain, or in their relationships with other species at the same level. The grebes like to hang out close to the ducks. The vegetarian ducks are looking for underwater plants to eat. As they agitate this layer of vegetation, they're disturbing all the nearby fish. The grebes see their opportunity and move in. As the fish flee from the disturbance, they're easy pickings for the grebes, who make fairly prolonged dives to snatch up the panicking small fry. One of the champion fishermen of the waterhole is the Australian darter. It's fishing with just its head and snaky neck above the waterline. This expert angler dives down deeper than most of the other fishing birds, around a metre below the surface, where he uses his strong pointed beak to transfix his victim. Being able to dive deeper means there's reduced competition with the birds that are taking fish from the surface levels. But birds, with their hollow bones, are naturally buoyant. So the darter has an amazing adaptation. Its feathers have a microstructure that, rather than repelling water, actually allows it in, so the bird can sink. Once near the prey, it can uncoil its kinked neck at lightning speed to spear the fish. These special feathers are ideal for fishing, but they're poor insulation. So, after diving, the darter hangs itself out to dry in the sun. All the food here in the wet season means it's a good place for the Jabiru to bring up their babies. They stay together for at least one breeding season. They've chosen a nest site near the water's edge and built a massive nest around a metre wide from sticks and woody debris. These chicks are just over 3 weeks old. They develop rapidly. The babies already weigh 600 grams. The pair share nest building, incubation and chick minding duties and maintain a close relationship. As one of them returns to the nest after foraging, they greet each other with a graceful dance-like display. With wings outstretched, they gently clack their beaks and flutter. This can go on for over a minute. Both parents bring the chicks food. Small fish, which they regurgitate. The chicks swallow them whole. It's mid-November, and the chicks will fledge in just another 9 or 10 weeks, although they'll still get food from Mum and Dad for some weeks after that. It's a long-term commitment. They'll be together for around 6 months, from mating, through hatching, and extended chick rearing. So it's difficult for them to breed every year. Many pairs mate every other year. At around 4 months old, the chicks will start to find their own food. At first, they'll be going after smaller prey like small fish and insects. But they'll have lots of competition for the tiny fish. Large, predatory fish lurk here too. The barramundi, known in Australia as a delicious edible fish, is itself very good at getting dinner. Able to use its bucket-like mouth to suck prey in from over 20 centimetres away. Perhaps the most skillful hunter, though, is the archerfish. Living in mangrove swamps, rivers and streams, it doesn't look like much at first. But it can do this. This feat of marksmanship is even more impressive than it looks. Archerfish can actively control everything about their jets: speed, angle, height and force. Controlling a free jet of water like this is something that's challenging for humans. But for the archerfish, it's all child's play. If an insect is in range, to the archerfish, it's already history. When the archerfish takes aim at an insect on an overhanging branch, its eyes are underwater. Light bends when it enters water, so the fish must make a calculation about where the prey really is and correct for the bending of the light. That's easy maths for the archerfish. It must also adjust for gravity. Water jets don't travel in a straight line because the force of gravity pulls them down, changing their angle. But the archerfish is able to work out this tricky physics problem too, and compensate for it. Bullseye. And researchers have discovered something about the archerfish that explains how it's able to hit an insect with enough force to stun and dislodge it up to 2 meters away. Most ballistic objects, like bullets, when shot upwards will slow down due to air resistance and gravity. But the water jet of the archerfish actually speeds up as it goes further. As the fish lets fly with its jet, it modulates the stream so that the tail end of the jet is moving faster than the leading end. As the back end catches up with the front end, it combines into one big super blob that moves even faster. The energy that was dissipated over an arc is now condensed into a high-power ball of water that blasts the unsuspecting insect from its perch. Waterhole life is a complex web. Distinctions between the hunter and the hunted are often unclear. The whole ecosystem is in a delicate balance, but it works. There is, however, something that's capable of not only throwing the system out, but completely destroying it. The cane toad. Originally from Central and South America, cane toads were introduced to Australia in the 1930s to try and control pest beetles in sugarcane crops. But the toad has become a ticking time bomb for native species. Its upper surface is covered in glands that exude highly poisonous toxins. Many native animals eat frogs and toads as a natural part of their diet, so they unwittingly eat the keen toads. A fatal mistake. And that's not all. If the toads happen to die near a water source like the wetlands or waterholes, their bodies will contaminate the water and kill any animal that comes to drink it. Even cane toad tadpoles are poisonous. They look virtually identical to harmless tadpoles, which are a vital food source for many fish and birds. These toxic toads are expanding their range westwards across the country at a steady pace and are a complete disaster for native wildlife. After 3 or 4 months of glorious, life-bringing rain, once again, the seasons start to move on. By March, showers become lighter and more intermittent. Little by little, the dry season returns. As the dry season intensifies, the wetlands and waterholes begin to shrink back. The water's edge turns to thick mud. The once lush plant life begins to dry up. Life for all the animals gets harder. The migrants leave for wetter, fresher pastures. But for the dingo, the shrinking water presents a new opportunity. He's probably been searching the nearby wild country for prey. Small mammals like rabbits or rodents are favourites. As the centre of local animal life, the waterhole is also a prime spot to see if there's anything to eat. The dingo is an opportunistic feeder, as well as an able hunter. If something succumbs to starvation or disease, he'll take advantage of it. He's a regular visitor to the waterhole, especially as the waters recede, leaving thick, cooling mud behind. As an apex predator, the dingo is good for the ecosystem. It keeps down the numbers of feral cats, an introduced species which, along with the cane toads, has wrought total havoc on native animals. Today, the dingo's just taking advantage of the facilities. As the rainfall slackens off, for some species, this is a time of plenty. All the food concentrates into diminishing pools of water and becomes easier prey. The extremes of a monsoonal climate in the far north have led to a boom or bust ecology. Times of plenty, followed by hard times. The wildlife here has adapted to that. Magpie geese switch from eating rice to eating high-energy starchy tubers, like water chestnuts, which they dig up with their hooked beaks. Some of the frogs cocoon themselves in the mud, awaiting reactivation when the next rains come. The crocodiles start eating less as the seasons change and food becomes more scarce. They too can dig themselves into the mud to rest through the dry. The leaves of the water lilies will once more die off. Some freshwater turtles wait for the dry season to lay their eggs in sandbanks. Inside the eggs, the embryos develop for around 70 days, but then go into diapause, a state of stasis. In this dormant condition, they wait until the next lot of heavy rain or floodwater reaches the nest. Then all the hatchlings will burst out of the nest at once. To avoid the worst of the drought, the Jabiru will simply take off and fly to less ephemeral water sources, as can the spoonbill and the rest of the birds. The smaller life forms, like crustaceans, have their own ways of ensuring the next generation lives through the dry. Some have eggs that are resistant to drought and so tiny they can be born on the wind. Wetlands and waterholes are a stunning microcosm of Australian biodiversity. They're the natural storehouses for thousands of different species. The magnificent Jabiru. The freshwater croc, both hunter and, in its youth, the hunted. Aquatic sharpshooter, the archerfish. Turtles and wading birds. All take advantage of the limited time of abundance the wet season brings, playing their part in the vivid, interconnected life of the wetland and waterhole ecosystems.